You were always there beside me and behind me and before me. You were always there to guide me and to hold me and to show me your presence. Where can I go from your presence? I live and breathe for your presence. Ooh. You were always there beside me and behind me and before me. You were always there to catch me and to know me and to show me your presence. Where can I go from your presence? I live and breathe for your presence. Oh, your presence. It is my shield in your presence. Jesus revealed in your presence. Oh, when we seek you alone. The skies crack open, my face unbroken. I rise with hope in you, that you will do what only you can do. Anchored in the unseen, your love surrounding me. I'll stand upon the truth that there's no place too far for you. The skies crack open, my faith's unbroken. I rise with hope in you, that you will do what only you can do. Anchored in the unseen, your love surrounding me. I'll stand upon the truth that there's no place too far for you. Your presence. Where can I go? Where can I go? Where can I go? Where can I go?
Hagar ran into the wild like her life depended on it, and the life of the baby she was carrying, because it did. For her, the wilderness wasn't a place to go on vacation or relax or enjoy the views. It was a place of escape from pain, from literal physical pain and from agonizing heartbreak. A momentary respite from all that was wrong in her life and her world. Now, kind of spoil the story up front. Going into the wild doesn't fix all the problems she was facing. In fact, she returns to face some of them at the end of her time in the wilderness, but she returns different. Because it's in the wild, when she's desperate and hurting and alone, that she encounters God. In her story, we'll discover, or maybe remember, that it's often when we are desperate and hurting and alone in the wilderness that we encounter God too. This story comes from the first book of the Bible called Genesis. A couple of notes before we look at the text. It's really, really old. The entire Bible is old, but Genesis begins by talking about the creation of the world. It goes all the way back to the beginning. So while all of the Bible has to be read with the understanding that the events happened a long time ago on the other side of the world in a different culture, that's especially true of Genesis and of this story. Now, as we learn about Hagar today, you may find yourself reacting, or maybe you get angry, and rightfully so. Because from where we are now, from what we know now, we would look back at what transpires and see mistreatment. We might even name it abuse. Now, on one hand, having these kinds of stories in the Bible speaks to its validity. Because if humans were just making up stories to put in a sacred text, they wouldn't make up this one. And the beauty of having hard things like this in the Bible shows us that we're not alone. There is evil and pain in our culture and our world now, and there was evil and pain in the culture and the world then. We're far from the first humans to live in brokenness, but we can take hope that the God who shows up to this woman in this situation is the same God who is alive today and who shows up for you and me in our darkest moments. Now, let's look at what made Hagar flee into the wild. Now, Sarah, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Abram agreed to what Sarah said, and she, meaning Hagar, conceived. We'll pause right here. Already we're encountering a very different culture from ours, right? We see the enslavement of another race. These are Middle Eastern people. They have an Egyptian girl as a slave. And in that, there's also what we would probably call today sexual abuse. It's part of that slavery, unfortunately. Now, I don't know about you, but already this story makes me kind of sick. It's so different from our culture where we have fought so hard, where we are still fighting to overcome the evils of slavery and all its repercussions. This is miles away from our culture where things like marrying and having kids are choices that adults get to make. Now, couples still deal with the heartbreak of infertility like Sarah and Abram did, but we would never consider this as an ethical option for how to respond. It's hard for us to understand this kind of behavior, and it's because we don't understand the culture. When this story was written down, the original audience was entirely made up of people who were in the culture. So they got it. They didn't need it to be explained to them. But we don't get it. See, for Sarah and Abram, not having kids was not only emotionally difficult, like it still is today. It was also relationally and financially difficult. Not having kids meant for them they weren't contributing to the community. And back then, life was lived in community, not in a little nuclear family, but with extended family. And not having kids was interpreted back then as being unfavored by the gods, maybe even cursed by them. So it's hard for us to truly appreciate the impact of this couple being childless from our positions here in a Western culture that's highly individualistic. But this would have impacted their daily lives and interactions with people. And it was financially difficult too. I mean, kids were vital for like the day-to-day work of living. And they were their retirement plan for old age. If you didn't marry and have kids, then when you were no longer physically able to provide for your own basic needs, you were at the mercy of extended family and their grace and their ability to care for you. It wasn't only about that emptiness of not having kids. It would eventually become an issue of life and death. Now, does that excuse what Sarah and Abram did to Hagar, making her go be with Abram? Of course not. It is completely, inexcusably reprehensible. And it's a kind of sexual abuse that, well, sadly, it didn't end with that culture and that part of the world at that time. It probably persists today somewhere. They forced Hagar to be with Abram to try to conceive a child. And it worked for them, at least. Let's see what happens next. When Hagar, knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Of course she did. Hagar's angry with Sarah, who then has the audacity to complain to her husband that her slave is angry with her. Abram says, "Your slave is in your hands. Do with her whatever you think best." Then Sarah mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. Sarah gets to do whatever Sarah thinks is best. This whole situation was Sarah's idea. I don't know why we're deferring to her judgment. It's been proven to be not just unreliable, but, well, unethical, downright abusive. Unfortunately, that's what her judgment produces again. It said politely, Sarah mistreated Hagar, so we don't know exactly what that means. We just are left to imagine. But whatever happens, as soon as it's over, Hagar runs away, takes off. All alone, presumably on foot, a slave girl with no rights, no safety, no security, no one to run to, nowhere to go, no one to provide for her. With new life inside her that she knows she will push out and then hand over to the same master who just mistreated her. I can understand her impulse to just go, to get out and as far away as possible. Can't you? I mean, to be human is to have that kind of flight or fight or freeze reaction to life and death situations. It's a spontaneous, natural response, not an intellectual one. But even if it were, fighting's not really an option if you're the slave. Freezing could be. Fleeing is what Hagar does. Now, in entirely different circumstances, reminds me of a story with my cousin Shane. When Shane was a teenager in the summer, he would leave his home in East Tennessee and come to Powhatan, Virginia to stay with my parents, his Aunt Faye, for a week or two. Now, my parents lived on a beautiful piece of property that had a pond stocked with fish. What's a teenage boy going to do but take full advantage of the fishing spot in the front yard? So one late summer night, he was squeezing every minute of fishing he could out of every second of daylight. Now, he was way at the narrow end of the pond, furthest from the house, as darkness descended. So he bent down to bait his hook, and then he looked up and saw two yellow eyes looking at him. He didn't stand and fight. He didn't freeze. He just took off running. He sprinted down the hill, leapt across the creek, up the next hill, launched himself through the front door, slamming it behind him. He was white as a ghost and panting in panic. He was way more out of breath than an athlete like him should be from just the sheer exercise of that moment. I mean, a couple years after this, he'd be competing in NCAA Division I track and field. High jump was his specialty. I imagine he used it that night when he just jumped the front steps to our house to get inside and escape what was probably a bobcat. But now his instinct, without thought or planning, was just to take off running when faced with fear and a potentially dangerous situation. Hagar's instinct, without thought or planning, was to take off running when she was afraid and in a decidedly dangerous situation. Shane, he ran into the safety of a house and family. Hagar ran into the wilderness all by herself, or so she thought. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to Shur. An angel of the Lord found Hagar in the desert, off the road, out of sight by passers-by, but never out of God's sight or reach. When she felt utterly lost, she was found. Have you ever just taken off, escaped from a hard or hurtful situation, gone to the desert place all alone? We do this in really small ways all the time, right? Whether it looks like hiding in the closet or in the car or maybe a bathroom stall for just a minute. Or how about this? Does anybody like to just get in the car and drive? No plan, no place in particular, just away. Of course, sometimes we flee in bigger ways, like escaping a hard season in a marriage or quitting a job or moving away, walking away from long-term relationships with friends and family. Clearly, there are good reasons to do all of those things, but I'm talking about when we just impulsively, instinctively run away instead of thinking things through or making careful decisions. Or maybe fleeing is not who you are. Maybe you're more of a fight person. You're going to stand your ground, engage in conflict, take on the opponent, however formidable. Or maybe you freeze, paralyzed, 0 steps forward, much less running away, no counter arguments launched, nothing at all, just frozen, unable to move or make a decision. When we're in these moments, we often feel alone, unseen, misunderstood, mistreated, lost. But the angel of the Lord finds Hagar in the desert. And God or his representatives often find us, frozen in place, fighting with everything we've got, or fleeing into the wild. In fact, as Pastor Elijah talked about in this series a few weeks ago, often the wilderness isn't the absence of God, it's the amplification of his presence with you. See, we tend to feel, Hagar likely felt like God was absent from her entire situation. But in the wilderness, his presence was actually made known in a real, tangible way. The angel and Hagar have a conversation. Before we look at it, I'll tell you, I don't find it satisfying or sufficient. See, from my perspective as a Westerner in the 21st century, I want the angel to take Hagar home to Egypt and free her from slavery, return her to her people, protect her from harm, give her a safe place to raise that child as her own. That's not what happens. I don't know if you're like me, but like when I read the Bible, when I look at our world, I want to see God overturn evil systems like empires and cultures. And sometimes we see big sweeping efforts, like when God saved the Jews from being Pharaoh's slaves. But what we often see is God interacting with one person, one family, one group of people at a time, bringing healing and wholeness. I mean, even when Jesus comes to earth long after this, he doesn't take down the empire or free the occupied people or overturn the wrongs of their culture. Instead, he heals one individual after another. He includes one person at a time. He includes all kinds of people, from minimum wage daily laborers to corrupt officials to marginalized women. mean, Jesus doesn't just acknowledge them. He doesn't just give them handouts. No, he honors them. He invites them to do life with him. He includes them in his work in the world. That's the kind of one-on-one interaction between God and individuals that we see in the desert by a spring with Hagar. The angel asks Hagar where she's going. Hagar says she's running away. Then the angel of the Lord told her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her." The angel added, "I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count." Told you, I don't find this satisfying or sufficient. Go back to your mistress and submit to her? It's not what I wanted the angel to say. Even though it comes with this promise that her descendants will be too numerous to count. Now, what that means, like we talked about earlier, Hagar will have security and stability in the future. She'll have descendants too numerous to count, definitely enough of them to take care of her and of each other. But all of that comes at the cost of her current situation. She has to go back. Now, the angel will go on to say that the son that she is carrying will be named Ishmael, the same Ishmael who becomes the father of Islam. And then Abram will go on to have another son, Isaac, and Isaac and his son Jacob, who we also call Israel, will become the fathers of Judaism. This story has world-altering consequences from the day the angel talks to Hagar in the desert to this day. But before this is about nations and races and world religions, it's about a lone slave girl fleeing to the wilderness. So let's set aside for a second all the repercussions of this moment. Let's set aside how we wish the story resolved from our perspective so much later, which that's not fair to put our culture on theirs. Let's see how Hagar reacts, because it is her story, it is not mine, and it is her voice we should hear. This is what Hagar has to say about the whole thing. After talking to the angel, she gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." Hagar's response is to make up her own name or title for God, the God who sees me. She says she's now seen the one who sees her. In the wilderness, Hagar sees God and knows she is seen by God. Doesn't change the fact that she's a slave, that she's been mistreated, that she's carrying her master's son. But it does change her because she feels seen, because she is seen. Being seen, knowing that you are, it is powerful. In huge, life-altering, world-altering moments like this one, and in small, everyday moments too. Recently, I was in a meeting at work. I don't know if you're ever part of meetings like this. This was an intense one. Everybody was leaned in and engaged. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of passion, exciting conversations, hard decisions, hard things to hear about some of the stuff I work on around here. It was all true, still hard. And then the meeting ended and I started packing up my stuff. Oh, I'm one of the annoying coworkers who kind of like sprawls in a meeting. I take up space. I've got my laptop and my phone and my planner and my water. Packing up takes me a minute. And as I was gathering up my things, I noticed that Pastor Elijah Shirelli was hanging out in the doorway. Everybody else left, and as I approached the door, I realized he was waiting for me. So we headed down the hallway together, and he said, "You okay? You kind of took a beating in there today." I saw it, and I get it. I've been there. Just want to make sure you're good. I thanked him, said I was fine, and headed off to my next meeting. But as the day went on, I realized I did feel a little banged up, a little discouraged, acutely aware of my failures, of letting people down. But as I became aware of those feelings, I also became aware of another one: gratitude for being seen. Elijah saw me. In a meeting and in the midst of all the words, he saw me. And he deliberately made time and space to tell me that he saw me. So I texted him that I was grateful for him. He sent some nice things back. I was grateful for the words then. I'm grateful for them now. But the thing I haven't forgotten is what it felt like to know that he saw me in a meeting on a Monday. It mattered. And in the desert, by a stream, on one of the worst days of Hagar's life, it mattered. It matters in your life too. On the mundane Mondays and on the life-altering days you'll never forget. Being seen matters in life and in the Bible. See, when I noticed how important the God who sees is in Hagar's story, made me think about where else in the Bible does God see people or things? Like at the beginning of this first book of the Bible called Genesis, when God creates the world. Every day, God creates something and then he sees it. 5 times, days 1 through 5, the Bible says, God saw that it was good. He saw. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 10, 12, 18, 21, and 25. God creates lands and seas and plants and trees and light and dark and creatures of the earth, air, and sea. And after he forms it or separates it and creates space for it, he takes the time to look at it and see it. And every time he looks at his creation and deems it good. Except for day 6. Some of you know where I'm going. Stay with me. On the 6th day, God finishes his work of creation with his masterpiece, humankind. And God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. God looks at humanity and the world he created and says it is very good. Now, this was in the beginning. Before people or the world are twisted and scarred with things like slavery and abuse and other kinds of evil. But even later, after humanity messes up and the world becomes a place of pain and evil, God still looks at humanity. He never stops seeing his creation, his children. That was true long after he created the world, when a hurting girl escaped to a spot in the desert by a stream all alone. God still saw her. The world that she was in was no longer very good, not really good at all, but God was still good, and God still saw her. And that was still true many years after that, when 2 young men tried to escape Auschwitz concentration camp. Walter and Fred had been there, eyewitness sufferers to the very worst of humanity for almost 2 years. Now, they didn't take off in an impulsive fight, flight, or freeze moment. No, they watched and they waited and they planned. They knew that if they stayed, not only would they continue to be mistreated and ultimately killed, but countless others would too. Their escape was a matter of life and death. It could either expedite their own deaths. If they were caught, they'd be publicly executed in front of the other prisoners as examples. Or they could potentially save their lives. The first step in the plan was hiding under a pile of firewood. Not being seen was critical for their escape. They hid in complete darkness in kind of a bunker underneath a pile of wood for 3 days and nights, while 2,000 soldiers and 200 dogs searched for them. When the search was called off, the men took off into the wilderness. Eventually, they got to safety, where they were separated and interrogated for days. Their testimonies from that questioning was compiled into what became known as the Auschwitz Report. It eventually reached the desk of FDR, Winston Churchill, and the Pope. That report is credited for saving 200,000 Jewish lives. Because even when the world and its humans are at their very worst, God is still good, and God still sees. Today, many years later, God is still good. He is still, as Hagar said, the God who sees me and the God who sees you. In fact, let's repeat Hagar's words together. Will you say this with me? The God who sees me. Let's do it one more time. The God who sees me. Yes, you. Wherever you have run, however far, however long, whatever and whoever you've escaped, you haven't run so far that God doesn't know where you are, that he doesn't see you. And he doesn't just see your location like a dot on a map tracking your whereabouts. He sees you in your pain or your suffering, your anger or your resentment, your fear or doubt, your regret or shame. He sees all the wrong of your situation, the wrong that's been done to you, the wrong of culture and systems, the wrong you've committed. He also sees the good that he built into who you are as his child, his son, or his daughter. He sees that goodness within you, whether you see it or not, whether anyone else sees it or not. He knows it's inside you because he's the one who put it there. When the God who sees looks at you, that's what he sees. Because when God looks at his creation, he sees that it is good. And it is never too late to live into that goodness. God's grace is always available. So are his mercy and love and the healing and the restoration that only he can offer. In just a second, we're going to sing a song. I invite you to make it your prayer to God from your spot in the wilderness. You can sing along, or you can soak up the words as they're sung around you. But it's time to stop running away. Terrified and terrorized, abused, ashamed, you have a safe place to go where you are wanted. You have someone to go to who loves you, who will care for you, who has plans for you. God is ready. He is waiting for you to come to him. So instead of running into the wild, it's time to run straight into the arms of the one who made you, the one who loves you, the one who sees you.
I've carried a burden for too long on my own, but I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. I see it now, I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. I run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I'll run to the Father again and again and again and again. You saw my condition, had a plan from the start. Your son for redemption, the price for my heart. And I don't have a contest for that kind of love. I don't understand, I can't comprehend. All I know is I need you. friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, my heart has been in your sight long before my first breath, running into your arms is running to life from death. And I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling now. Just as I am, you pull me in, and I know I need you now. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. Oh, my heart found a surgeon, my soul found a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, 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 again and again. Oh, again and again and again and again.
Our God is the God who sees you. And anytime you can run to him again and again and again. Whatever wilderness you're in right now, whatever hard road you're walking right now, God sees you, he is for you, and he's working on your behalf. I hope today's message and today's service is a reminder of the hope we can have in him. If you need prayer for anything, or you feel like you're lost, or maybe God doesn't see you, please use the link in the chat right now to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to pray for you and more. We are almost through our Into the Wild series. We only have 2 more weeks left, so we hope that you'll come back next week. You'll bring a friend, and we can all learn again and again how God meets us in the wilderness. We'll see you then.